Hey everyone, this is Kevin from thechesswebsite.com. Today we're going to be starting our coverage of the 2015 Sinquefield Cup. Just going to be an absolute ridiculous tournament. We have 9 of the top 10 players in the world. We have Magnus Carlsen, Vishy Anand, Topalov, Nakamura, Fabiano Caruana, who won last year and had a crazy run, 7 wins in a row to start that tournament against the best players in the world. Even then, we have Anish Giri, we have Wesley So, Alexander Grishuk, and Levon Aronian. Going to be just tons of fun for the next 2 weeks. We're going to have as many games covered as possible, but really looking forward to this tournament. It's been on my radar all year, the strongest tournament that I can remember, so really excited to have such a strong field. Today we're going to be starting off with Nakamura versus Vishy Anand. Nakamura is my pick to win this tournament, mostly just because he's been on a tear all year. It'd be pretty cool. This tournament is in St. Louis, Missouri, so I think it'd be pretty fun to have an American actually win this tournament. So Nakamura, as I kind of look through the field of Americans, I think he has the strongest chance, and he's been playing really, really well. Does have a tough task going against Vishy Anand in round number 1. But without further ado, we'll go ahead and get started. Nakamura starts out with pawn to d4, knight f6, pawn c4, pawn e6, and then knight to f3, trying to avoid the Nimzo Indian defense with knight to c3, a bishop here to b4. Anand plays this as well as anyone. Nakamura decides to just not go down that line, just doesn't want to have to play against it as white, so instead it plays knight to f3. Pawn d5, pawn to g3, bishop here to e7, getting ready to castle on the king side, bishop here to g2. And this is going into the Catalan opening where white really is trying to control the light squares. Has his bishop here on g2, really trying to put a lot of pressure on this long diagonal right here. Black's going to have a few options. If Vishy Anand wants to take this material here on c4, he can really just try to hang on to this material. It is going to be somewhat difficult to really promote, really do anything, develop on the queen side. White's going to have a easy time kind of controlling this queen side here. It's kind of open up for his pieces. Also, this light square bishop here on g2 really just controls this nicely. So Anand can either take this on c4 or can decide to not take this right away. Could always play knight to c6. If there ever is an exchange, that's fine. We kind of open up this e file right here, but really still controls the center of the board with his knight on c6. Much slower game for both sides, but Vishy Anand does have that option as well. So in the game, we see castle, and then pawn taking here on c4. So Vishy Anand decides, hey, I'm going to go ahead and take this material. I'll try to hang on to it as much as I can, and then just do my best to go ahead and develop on the queen side. Nakamura continues with queen to c2, threatening to capture this pawn here on c4. Pawn a6, getting ready to push forward with pawn to b5. A few ways white could attack this. Could just take with his queen right here. That's completely fine. Another option is what Nakamura plays, and that's pawn to a4. Both stopping this and also just kind of an aggressive play here, making sure that his opponent never really gets any traction over here on the queen side. Definitely the way that I like to approach it as well. Bishop here to d7. I usually see and myself will play knight to c6. This makes logical sense to me, getting your knights involved into the action, trying to control the center of the board. So this is what I usually will see happen. Pawn to b6 is fine. Bishop here to b7, trying to control this long light square diagonal against white. But Vishy Anand decides to go and try something different. Bishop here to d7. Now the queen takes here on c4, equalizing in material. Bishop here to c6. So a lot of moves from this light square bishop right here. Bishop up here to g5, pinning down this knight to the bishop. Now another move, kind of somewhat surprising just to see this bishop kind of moving all over the place, but bishop here to d5, kicking the queen back, and then bishop here to e4, just kind of moving it along. Nakamura says, okay, I'll go ahead and retreat my queen back here to d1. It looks like you mean business, and you're going to just move that bishop all over the place. Pawn to c5. Vishy Anand still had multiple options. He still could have played the knight to c6. Didn't have to be pretty aggressive, but decided to go ahead and kind of bust things open, recognizing that he needs to make something happen on the queen side here. So pawn to c5, capture, and then the bishop recaptures here on c5. So really doing a good job of controlling the center of the board with his bishops right now. Now we do see an exchange here on d8, and the knight here to d2. So if we kind of look at it, just kind of recapping where we're at. Both sides have both their knights, both their bishops. The pawn chains are exactly the same on board. So really, this is about as close to an even match as possible. So it will be interesting to see how both sides are going to continue. You usually want your rooks in these open files, so the C and the D file protecting, that's going to be very important. This knight right here, not really doing much right now. Nakamura decided to go ahead and get his involved into the game, so getting this knight here on b8 is going to be very important. Hook up these rooks over here is going to be very important. But beyond that, it's kind of anyone's game right now. Definitely still wide open right now, so we'll just see what happens. Anand brings his bishop back here to c6, a knight to b3 threatening this bishop. Bishop back here to e7, knight here to a5. Decides, hey, if you're going to take my bishop, I'll go ahead and recapture with my pawn here. Can also retake this bishop here on g5. Completely okay with that. Nakamura's not ready to quite give up his bishop, so bishop back here to e3. Knight d5, bishop back here to d2, and then knight to b6. Now it looks kind of interesting. Both the knight and the bishop are both attacking this pawn. So when you first see bishop here to f4, it looks a little weird, thinking that this pawn could fall right away since two attackers, but it's actually a little safer than you may think. If the knight takes here, then all of a sudden the knight could take here on c6. If we do see recapture, the rook takes here on a4. That's going to be extremely bad. If instead the bishop takes here, then all of a sudden this bishop now here on f4, which it wasn't here before, bishop here to c7 is going to be very, very deadly. The bishop could take here on b6, and then this bishop is just kind of hanging out. If we do see the knight come here to b7, maybe protecting this knight, still it's going to be bad. The rook's going to fall. Rook here to d8, doesn't matter. Knight up here to b7. All of a sudden, white has double rooks, can bring his rook over here to c1. Going to be very, very difficult for black to kind of hold on to this. You know, you just can't really hold on to this open file right here. Rook over here to c1. Just down too much material. Nakamura would kind of run over there. So instead, we don't see that pawn fall. We see the knight come here to d5. Now the knight's going to come up here to e5, and then pawn to g5. Pretty interesting move. Very, very aggressive move from Anand. He definitely didn't have to play the g5. He could always just say, hey, I'm going to go ahead and take your bishop here. This whole time you haven't given up your double bishop pair, but I'll go ahead and take just knight on here on f4, but instead decides, hey, I'm going to go super aggressive, play pawn here to g5, and then bishop back here to d2, bishop here to f7, f6, kicking the knight back here to d3, and then pawn to b6. So being somewhat aggressive, kicking all this material back from Nakamura, knight over here to c4, pawn to b5. Now we do see some exchanges come off the board. Bishop here to d5. We do see an exchange off the board. Pawn taking here on c4, bishop takes, bishop now comes down here to b2, and then the rook's going to come up here to a2. So if we kind of digest and look at everything that happened, both sides are still equal in material. They have double rooks back here that they really need to get involved into the action, double bishop pair, both have a knight on board. 4 pawns on the king side, 1 pawn on the queen side, not really an advantage either way. This is about as even as you can get. Bishop's just going to swing back here to g7, really controlling this long dark diagonal, exactly what Bishop wants to do. Rook over here to c1, controlling this c file. First time it's kind of gotten this rook involved into the action. Anand, on the other hand, really needs to get his knight involved, to get his other rook involved into the action, so that's going to be on his mind. First, going to bring his bishop back here to e8. Now, knight up here to c5, bishop here to f8. So, Anand decides to go and really play a defensive mode. If we saw just not few moves ago, he was kind of being the aggressor. All of a sudden, all of his pieces are on the 8th rank right here. So just kind of in a wait-and-see mode, recognizing that he does not want to get a loss here. He still has a ton of material. It's going to be very difficult for Nakamura to actually find a win here. So just playing somewhat conservative right now, keeping all his pieces back. Bishop here to d3, knight here to c6, bishop e4, attacking, pinning down this knight right here. King's going to come over here to f1, getting ready if it needs to get involved into the action. Rook here to a7, so exactly what we talked about, get this knight involved. All of a sudden now get the rook involved into the game. Knight back here to b3, opening up the door for this rook right here on c1 to control this open c file. Always important. Now rook over here to c7, double barreling here. You always want to have your rooks kind of in a single file so they help protect each other. If you have a queen as well, you actually want the queen in the middle. So it'd be rook, queen, and then rook. Those pieces really do well together. Rook over here to c2, so kind of a battle for the c file right now. Bishop here to d6, pawn up here to f4. And then things just kind of get crazy. We see pawn here to f5, both sides deciding, hey, we just want to play super aggressive right now. Bishop comes back here to d3, and then we see knight to b8. And this is a huge blunder from Anand. He really didn't need to play knight to b8. He had a lot of other options here. Rook over here to b8 makes a lot of sense. But knight to b8, he just didn't quite calculate enough how the exchange would go. Right away we see rook taking here on c7. The rook takes. We do see an exchange right here. And then after the pawn takes here on g5, pawn recaptures, knight to c5. And this is the move that I'm not quite sure Anand really thought about all the way through. Just too much attacking prowess right here for this knight. This pawn here on e6 is really what's tough for black to hold on to. If he wants to try to hold on to it with his bishop, then that's going to be very difficult. It can't really come here because then you just see an exchange on board, and then the bishop just comes up here and takes. That's definitely going to be bad. If the bishop comes here to f7, all of a sudden the knight to a6 can't recapture. If he does, she's just going to lose that material. All of a sudden, white's still up in material as well. So just all in all, really difficult for Anand to deal with. Just don't think he really saw how powerful this knight here on c5 is going to be. Bishop here to d6. Knight taking here on e6, up in material. The bishop does take here on a4, but Nakamura is just going to gain material right here on g5. We do see a few more moves, bishop here to d7, and then bishop here to c3, and then Vishy Anand decides to go ahead and tip his king over and call it quits right here. Although he is only down a pawn in material, this is an in-game that any grandmaster is going to be able to turn into a win, especially since they're all on the king side of the board. It's just going to be easy for him to overwhelm his opponent with more material, especially pawns. Promote one of his pawns to a queen and easily win the game. So, as you can imagine, if you've seen any high-level chess, usually your opponent's just going to concede in that spot, and that's exactly what Vishy Anand did. So played extremely well, just made a huge blunder at the end here, just didn't go through all of his calculations, which for Vishy Anand is a little odd because he's really good at that stuff. So congratulations to Nakamura, as I thought he would. He is just on fire right now, playing extremely well. So congratulations to him. Hopefully he continues to do well. What's really crazy, this tournament has just been absurd already. On day one, we've had 5 matches and we've had 5 winners. I really expected in such a huge tournament, playing against some of the best players in the world, that we would see at least 4 draws. I thought that we were going to have 1 win maybe. We've had 5 winners today, which means we've had 5 losers. So some of the best players in the world have already lost. But congratulations to Nakamura. He sits atop the leader standings, tied with a few others. So hopefully you guys are excited about this tournament. Hopefully you enjoyed this game, and keep an eye out for more games in the future. I'll see y'all then. Thanks for watching.